excused that particular person from the witness list.
Well, now we want to bring in our Lindsay Gardner. She's live outside of the Duval County Courthouse with more for us. Linz?
Yeah, Don and Mike, let's go ahead and set the stage for everyone at home. Michael Dunn will take the stand, as we know, and as you were saying, this is because Michael Dunn has to. We've been talking with our legal experts here in our community, Dale Carson, attorney Janet Johnson. I was on the phone with her about 10 minutes ago, and they tell me, as it stands right now, there has been no evidence entered into court that the jury has heard that Michael Dunn was in fear of his life or that he saw Jordan Davis with a gun. Now, we know that we heard those things circulating in the media ahead of this trial, but State Prosecutor Angela Corey did not bring in Dunn's statements to police as evidence here so far in this trial. So because of that, the jury has not heard from Michael Dunn at all that he felt in fear of his life, in his words, or that he claims he saw Jordan Davis with a gun. No other testimony has said that Jordan Davis had a gun at all. In fact, everyone else is refuting that claim. So Judge Healy basically has already said in court to Corey Strollo, Michael Dunn's attorney there, hey, I can't even charge the jury to even possibly find your client innocent by self-defense because you haven't proven a justifiable homicide. You must prove that your client was in imminent fear of his life in order to have acted in self-defense. And so far, we know the judge basically feels that evidence has not been given. So without Michael Dunn taking the stand today, the question for the jury would be, what level of guilt? Is this first degree, second degree? But we would be looking at a likely conviction here without Dunn himself in his own words. Now, the scope of Dunn's testimony is what we don't know. We don't know how long his defense team will have him there on the stand today. The longer they have him on, the more questions they ask, the wider it opens it up for the state attorney's office and the prosecutors to get up and ask him more damaging questions. Now, what hasn't been entered into evidence just yet were those jailhouse phone calls, 180 hours of phone recordings by Michael Dunn. We heard a lot about that leading up to the trial beginning, but they haven't been entered in just yet. Now, if Michael Dunn gets on the stand and says, perhaps, I'm not a racist, if that question comes up, well, you could see the prosecutor, Angela Corey, standing up and trying to impeach him on that claim, then bringing in those jailhouse phone calls to prove her point. So there's a lot of, I guess, a gateway of information could be opened up, a gateway of evidence, if you will, could come into play based on how long Michael Dunn is on the stand and how far his defense team wants to go and letting the jury hear from him. You typically do not hear defense witnesses, rather, you don't hear the defendant on the stand often. You didn't see George Zimmerman testify. You didn't see Casey Anthony testify. And in large part, that's because as a defense attorney, you don't want the jury to make up an unfavorable opinion of your client. You don't really want them to hear their voice. You don't really want them to make any mannerisms that the jury might find off-putting and then associate guilt or innocence associated with those characteristics or the tone of their voice or maybe the way they answer a question. Are they smug? They have to be extremely likable in those situations because you're leaving it up to those 12 men and women to basically decide, do they like you? And if they like you, maybe they can believe your story a little bit more. So it's all very subjective there in the minds of the jury. But this is really a last-ditch effort, Mike and Don, that the judge has basically said, without this, I cannot necessarily charge the jury to find justifiable homicide and believe your defense. So this is, again, what we're having to see from Michael Dunn, and it's what we're going to see in court today. I also reached out to John Phillips. He is the attorney representing Jordan Davis' family there. I asked John, what did Jordan's parents think about Michael Dunn taking the stand? And his text back to me was pretty short and concise. He said, all of the victims want to hear what Michael Dunn has to say. So those are the three teens in the car with Jordan Davis, along with Jordan's parents in the courtroom today, all eagerly listening to what Michael Dunn can possibly say to them about the shooting and the episode that transpired there at that Gate gas station in November of 2012. Mike?
Yeah, Lindsay, real quick for us. This is a big day, obviously. We didn't know whether Michael Dunn would indeed testify in his own defense, and now we know that he has to, really, as you mentioned. He really had no choice, or his attorney had no choice. What is the scene like that there? I understand Leslie Corsi's inside the courtroom. She said there's a lot more media there, local, national as well. What are you seeing?
Yeah, Mike, they are in the court out here outside the court. It's very, very quiet. We have one other news crew set up near us, and then behind us, you see people just streaming into the courthouse like it's a regular day. We're not seeing protesters here. We're not seeing large crowds. We're basically just seeing the media here to bring this story to everyone at home. I should mention, we're going to stay on the air here with Michael Dunn's testimony for everyone at home. And if you're at the office, we are streaming it for you live online at actionnewsjax.com. So certainly, we cannot tell you at this time how long this is going to last, but we can tell you for every moment that it does, we will be there streaming for you what Michael Dunn has to say in his own words. Mike?
All right, thanks, Linz. And we do have the witness list, and it has gone very, very quickly.